everyone, and welcome back to Anne's Family Recipe. Today I'm making a copycat recipe for Red Lobster's Cheddar Bay biscuits. And to go along with those, I'm making a delicious shrimp stew, kind of a Cajun style dish. It's called shrimp étouffée. I am so excited to share this biscuit recipe with you. It's delicious, very simple to make. They're light and fluffy and very tender and have incredible flavor. For the Copycat Red Lobster biscuits, you need buttermilk. So if you don't have it on hand, you can make your own by adding about a tablespoon of white vinegar to a measuring cup, and then you top it off to the 1 cup line with milk. And then just mix that together and let it sit aside for a few minutes. For the dry ingredients, in a large mixing bowl, I combined 2 cups of all-purpose flour, a tablespoon of sugar, a tablespoon of baking powder, 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, and a half a teaspoon of kosher salt. This recipe also said that a pinch of cayenne pepper is optional. Next, I whisked the dry ingredients together and then poured in my homemade buttermilk along with 1 stick of melted unsalted butter and then whisked that all together. Lastly, I sprinkled in 1½ cups of shredded cheddar cheese. I used the fancy sharp cheddar. You can use whatever kind you have on hand. And then I switched over to a rubber spatula to incorporate the cheese into the biscuit dough. These are so easy because you don't have to roll them out and cut them. They're a drop biscuit. So once you've mixed all the ingredients together, you can just scoop them out onto a lined baking sheet. I used a silicone baking mat. You could also use parchment paper here. I used a 1/4 cup measuring cup and scooped out the biscuit dough. You don't need to space them far apart because they're not going to spread. They'll puff up a little bit, but you can put them pretty close together on the pan. And then these bake at 450 degrees for 10 to 12 minutes or until they're golden brown. While the biscuits are baking, melt 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter in a bowl and add in a teaspoon of dried parsley flakes and a half a teaspoon of garlic powder and whisk that together. Once the biscuits come out of the oven while they're still hot, you can take a little brush and put this butter mixture all over the top of each biscuit, and this makes them so buttery and extra flavorful. It's incredible. I serve these biscuits alongside a really tasty soup. It's called shrimp étouffée, and this is an old recipe from the Food Network show Down Home with the Neelys. I started by dicing up 2 green bell peppers along with 1 onion and 4 cloves of garlic. Next, I added a half a cup of oil to my Dutch oven over medium-high heat, and to this I sprinkled in a half a cup of flour to make a roux. And in case you don't know, a roux is just the thickening agent in the soup. So you have your fat and the flour cooked together and it will thicken the broth. For this soup, you want to cook your roux for several minutes. You're going to stir the flour into the oil until it has dissolved and then keep stirring pretty consistently just so it doesn't burn on the bottom, but it's definitely going to darken in color. And in the directions, it says it should kind of look like peanut butter. So I think we're at that state now. It took several minutes to get there. So once you're at that state, add in all of the chopped veggies. And I sauteed these for about 5 minutes until they started to soften. I seasoned the vegetables with a little bit of salt, pepper, dried thyme leaves, and paprika. I do want to mention that the original recipe includes celery in the vegetables. That's part of that holy trinity in Louisiana style cuisine: bell peppers, onions, and celery. However, I just don't like celery at all, so I didn't include it here. For the liquid, I added in 1 can of fire-roasted diced tomatoes and their juices, along with 2 cups of chicken broth, and I made my own using chicken base in hot water. For extra savory flavor, I added in a splash of Worcestershire sauce. And finally, the recipe calls for 1 cup of clam juice, and I just substitute a cup of water. At this point, I brought the liquid to a boil and then reduced the heat to low and allowed this to simmer for about 30 minutes, and it will thicken up and all the flavors will develop. After about a half an hour, I added in 1.5 bags of frozen shrimp. These were medium sized and they were already peeled and deveined, and in just a matter of minutes, the shrimp were cooked through. I garnished the soup with some chopped up green onions and served this with those freshly baked, absolutely amazing Cheddar Bay biscuits. This was a super cozy and really tasty dinner. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. You can follow me over on Instagram at Anne's Family Recipe and give this video a thumbs up if you liked my Copycat Cheddar Bay biscuit recipe here today and my shrimp étouffée. Thank you so much for joining me here in my kitchen, and I'll see you again soon.